Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back on the mic with Mike. It is the premier business radio program in the area. I'm host Mike King. I appreciate you being here with me. We are coming to you live from Gathering Him here at the Fabulous Hilton Hotel. The show is on ESPN Richmond 5 to 7 a.m. daily, and we talk about business, life, and everything in between. I'd like to thank you guys for coming out. Today we have with us Jason Roop. He is a journalist, entrepreneur, man about town, as well as you are the founder of Spring Store.
That's right. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Welcome to the program. Give us an idea of who Jason is, where you come from, and then also we're going to dig into some of the exciting times that you've lived through here in Richmond from a journalistic standpoint as well as from a business standpoint.
Oh, well, gosh, that's a lot. That's a big question to answer there. You
really... I got one good one per show.
Good for, if you're gonna use the one good one, use it at the beginning. Because you may lose somebody. You never know. Mike, I've been in Richmond since I went to the University of Richmond, and I graduated in 1995. I'm from Luray, Virginia, where the world famous Luray Caverns are. A lot of people know Luray Caverns, and that's where I grew up. And it's a beautiful place. And so the University of Richmond brought me here. And after I graduated, I got a job in journalism here, and it was really doing that for 20 years. The last full-time journalism job I had was with Style Weekly News Magazine.
So you were with Style, was it 20 years or so?
I was with their company for 20 years, yes, about 20 years, and with another paper before that. And I was the editor of Style for 12. And then after 12 years of a weekly, that was a lot. That was a lot of time there. And I decided, to start looking around for some new adventures. And I had coffees with people for about a year, just talking with people around town about ideas and asking for advice, and it was so helpful. And I decided that I would start a public relations and content marketing company. And that way I could transfer some of my journalism over and still, help people with their stories and find some interesting things to do, make content for people. And I've been doing that since May of 2017, and it's been great. I've enjoyed it. I've still been able to keep in touch with my friends in journalism. I write from time to time for some different places, but right now, Spring Story is my focus.
So you've lived with Spring Stories. You launched the company, a pandemic hit, and then civil unrest. You were in the middle of covering all of that. Looking at it from a journalistic standpoint, what do you think it was like for journalists on the ground living through something historic and you starting a business just a little bit before that?
Well, I was fortunate during the pandemic. I had one client who was big in the events industry, and he really had a hard time because, as you know, events were the first things to be canceled everywhere, and they were the last things to come back online. So that industry really suffered. So I wasn't able to work with him, but at the same time, I had another client that came on board, and we launched her business that year, and it was an injectables boutique where you are face to face with somebody, and we were working on that and thought, what are we doing? How are you going to launch this during a pandemic? And I'll tell you, today she's busier than ever. She's booked into half the year already. Rachel Duke is her name. So I've had all kinds of experiences, but fortunately for me, the clients that I was working with still needed to have communications with their clients or with the people, their audience in different ways. Whether it was the Virginia Department of Veterans Services, I do social media for them and video, and everybody still needed help. So, and we were already remote. So that was a very easy transition for me, and I know it was very difficult for others. So I feel very fortunate about that. I also watched, of course, the civil unrest in the news and everything else that's going on, and I kept in touch with my friends who were on the ground, and I know it was just a very difficult time because while they had to be out covering these things, they were dealing with masks and trying to protect their health, also getting the story in what can be sometimes difficult situations, sometimes dangerous. I know people that were going out at all hours to cover the events. And as all that was happening, they were getting reduction in resources. So there were fewer people to cover these really important stories.
All right, on the mic with Mike, Jason Roop is here. We're coming to you from Gathering Hemp here at the fabulous Hilton. There's some great guests who are upcoming this evening. So we're going to hear from ladies who are women speaking sports RVA. We're going to be talking about all the great things that are happening. I suspect that they will talk about Tom Brady.
I had a feeling that might come up.
I'm sure
women's sports and the
Tom
biggest
Brady.
News of the decade. Right.
I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, so what?
Well, there was also another big sports announcement today on 2/2/22. Yeah, so well, I don't want to,
we're not going to steal their thunder.
I don't want to steal their thunder.
We're not stealing their thunder. We also, today, we're going to have Bridget Bywater, who's from King's Dominion. She's going to come in and talk to us about all the great things that are happening over King's Dominion. On the mic with Mike, the best business radio program around, heard on ESPN Richmond 106.1.
And I love King's Dominion. Being from Luray, that was a huge deal to go to the theme park there and seeing my first live concert there, big concert. In college,
it's funny how that plays a part in our life. It may be something to someone else, but to you, it's local, and
yes.
you're able to go to a world-class venue, and you learn all things like you said. Okay, so they're the rides, but they're also it's where you go to see a concert.
I saw James Taylor there. I still remember it.
Sweet baby James.
That's right.
There you go. On the mic with Mike. We are here coming to you from Gathering Hemp. This is the place 5 to 7. We are here on Wednesdays. So, Jason, talk to business owners about marketing and content and how they shape the story of their business. That's where you are. You're helping businesses shape who they are, how they're seen in the public. Give our listeners an idea of some of that.
I think when I was at Style Weekly, and I would have companies call, and they knew that they wanted coverage, but they weren't exactly sure what they wanted to tell me about that, or what their story was.
They just wanted coverage. And I would always try to provide some tips for people who called in and say, well, let's talk a little bit more about you. Let's find out what's interesting. What I've found as I've worked on both sides is a lot of times people are so involved in their industry that they're not sure what's interesting to other people because you're in it and you're invested in it and you're doing your thing. So I tell people to sit down with somebody that's a friend or a neighbor or somebody that knows them and have them talk a little bit about their business. How did you get started? And find out what that other person, almost a mock reporter, find out what that person is finding intriguing about your business, because it may be the simplest thing that you never thought of. But to me, it's like, well, that's the story right there. Let's talk more about that. I also recommend that people think about what their customers are asking them over and over again, because we all have people call up and say, tell me about this, or I have a question. I'd say write down the 10 most common questions you get as a business owner, and then start answering those questions. You've already answered them. You know what you say to people, but you've got 10 great pieces of content right there. Start putting those answers out on your LinkedIn and your social media feeds and in other places. And I think that's a great way to talk to people about what we do in a way that's comfortable. One of Mike, Jason Roop is here with us from Spring Story. How can people find Spring Story?
Well, I have a very simple website, springstory.com, and that's where I have my contact information, and you can give me an email from there.
All righty, we'd like to thank you for coming in. On the mic with Mike, Jason is here with us. Follow him and his projects. You want to give a shout out to any of the businesses you work with? That's what we do here.
Oh, well, I really appreciate Bowerbird Energy, which is a veteran-owned company. I know you're a veteran, Mike, and appreciate your service. Bowerbird just made a transition this year to energy and environmental contract.
Are they local?
They're a Richmond company. Chris Rawlings there has.
Oh,
yeah, you know Chris. And he's been around for many years, but we just did a rebrand and a relaunch of his new company.
We were supposed to, he was going to come on the show. We've tried to make that.
We'll figure that out. We'll bring him back.
We'll bring him back. That's what it is.
Yeah, and he's been somebody I really enjoy working with. Wedding Experience is a new project of mine for 2022.
Yeah, how did you get to be the wedding guy?
Well, this company, Wedding Experience, has put on shows for 25 years in this region, and the new owner asked me to help with the front end of things, and it's very classic marketing. we bring a local business owner together with newly engaged couples, an audience that changes every season. So we put them together, get them to meet each other, and they book business. We just had an event on Sunday in Richmond at the Greater Richmond Convention Center. So that's been a really big client of mine, the Virginia Department of Veteran Services.
Shout out to Jeb Hoffman. Talked to him the other day.
Yes, I work with Jeb. We're both on the communications team there together, and he's fantastic. And Rachel Duke Injectables. If you're looking to tidy up a little something, a line, a wrinkle, get yourself in order. Not that we need it, Mike.
But no, I need more than a touch up. So you know what? One of the good parts about maybe you could have her come by, because I think that's something that people would find interesting.
She is talented and very busy, and it's an interesting business.
It is an interesting business.
And she does very well, and she's just the nicest person. So I have a chance to work with really small, I have women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, state agencies, all kinds of people I get to see, and that's kept things very interesting.
And plus, you go to some cool things too.
I do.
You go to some really cool things. I see you at fashion shows. I show up every
RVA Fashion Week, of course. We have a mutual. Yeah, they're a client of mine.
Shout out to Jimmy Blood and the crew there. Already on the mic with Mike. Like to thank Jason for coming in. All right, appreciate it. Thanks. Now take care.
Thanks, Mike.